Welcome back. June is Men's Health Awareness Month, and ankle injuries are no excuse to drop your exercise program. East Cooper Medical Center's Rehabilitation Director Tom Moriarty joins us now to tell us how to avoid getting sidelined by that ankle pain. Thank you for joining us.
I'm glad to be here.
Now, we're talking about men that have perhaps exercised for years, maybe runners, tennis players, any kind of sports that they've done for years are experiencing ankle pain, so they tend to maybe back off the sports. Now, first of all, why is that, and what can be done?
Well, they may be having ankle pain related to past injuries or ankle inversion injuries, and they tend to back off because they think, it's something that I shouldn't be experiencing the pain, and they don't quite know how to handle it, and they think, well, I've just got to stop. Now, what they can do is you can have an assessment done by a physical therapist or a specialist and see if there's any weakness at their ankle or muscle imbalance or inflexibility. The other thing we want to look at is we want to go up the kinetic chain. If you think about the ankle as a link in a chain, the lower extremity, the knee is the next link, and then the hip. Often we find that people who are suffering ankle injuries or pain in their lateral ankle are having hip weakness, and that is something that can be addressed, and when corrected, they can get active again.
So let's talk about that, because you're saying that your hips, which is obviously a lot higher than your ankles, can be the root of the problem for your ankle pain. I mean, how does that translate to the body?
Absolutely, and it is somewhat counterintuitive to think about, but we know that the National Academy of Sports Medicine has identified hip weakness in a large percentage of ankle rollover injuries. For example, we'll see a young middle school soccer player or high school soccer player who comes in with a lateral ankle sprain. And they didn't step in a hole, we didn't roll off a curb, but they came in and said, my foot just kind of shifted, now I've got this injury. And when we look at them and measure the strength of their hips or do a manual muscle test on the hip, we find that they do have hip weakness. Now, what I want you to think about is that when you have your foot planted, the next link in the chain is your knee and then your hip. If your hip is weak and you get a shift there, it will translate all the way down and cause that ankle instability.
So obviously a lot of men, if they have that pain, they will avoid obviously what they think is the root of the problem, which may be running or whatever activity.
Right.
What can be done, first of all, to know that you have this problem, to address it, and then what can be done to avoid it long term?
Yep. To address it, it just takes a very quick screening. Look at you have the athlete or the individual stand on a single leg and see if they can maintain their balance, maybe flex up and down on their knee. Everybody's familiar with the Karate Kid and the crane move that movie. So you have a person stand in that position and observe as to whether or not there's some shifting at the hip and how it affects the ankle. Once that's screened, it can be addressed with strengthening and or flexibility exercise.
Is there a particular age that maybe men should be looking for this problem?
Sure. I think certainly by the time you're in your 20s, if you come in with an ankle injury in your teens, we need to start looking right away. But if you want to continue activity, whether it's tennis, running, or soccer at the recreational center, you should start to begin to look at the strength and flexibility of your hip. On the other side of life, we see, as you know, what can be quite severe for seniors is a hip fracture as a result of the fall. Well, we know that people are starting to become weak in their hip musculature for years before the fall takes place. So I think not only is it important in the younger set, but also for us all as we age, so that we can avoid a fall later in life.
Okay, so if somebody does suspect this and they want to go get checked out, how can they get in contact with you or get a good referral from their doctor? How do they go about that?
Well, certainly if they have any kind of pain on walking or inflammation, they do want to contact their doctor about it and talk about potentially getting a physical therapy evaluation.
And that can be done at East Cooper Medical Center, as you see right here. Okay. And then, this isn't just for men. Also, women have to be concerned about this as well, right?
That's right. Both genders we see it in men and women.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom Moriarty. Thank you for stopping by and telling us about this. And of course, if you do have that pain, get it checked out before it becomes much worse.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And don't go away, because coming up after the break, we'll have a beautiful cello performance that you can catch at the Spoleto Festival. That's next. Stay with us.